the two young men who started the fires from the
Up on chimneys.
no chimneys.
And you could see the smoke
Yeah,
rise.
and we could see it, but you know, when you live in the mountains, you don't panic when you see smoke. And just like Brooks just kept waiting and waiting and waiting before you finally decided to leave.
Yeah.
But the smoke on that day, those smoke got so bad you could hardly breathe. And people downtown.
The air was yellow.
Getting out of
The air
town.
was yellow.
It was orange. It was orange.
She had to go to the doctor that morning. She
Yeah.
was having severe back trouble and had been to the doctor that morning, and the smoke was, and the wind was getting
Wind was-
really high too.
And being on top of the mountain, the wind just really, so Mark and Debbie were really keeping an eye on it, and then we started hearing all these reports that Gatlinburg has been evacuated. And so as time went on, we realized that the fire's coming, it's really bad, it's got down into Gatlinburg. And Mark contacts the people at First Baptist Church where our membership is, and asks if they have, somebody who could come get us. I'm not getting
Well, let me
ahead.
kind of back up. What had happened, the smoke was so bad, the house was filling with smoke. And he said, we need to get Mama off the mountain, because with this wind, the power's gonna go out, and we'll be stuck up here at night with a house full of smoke and no power. So he said, I'm gonna, take a shower, we'll get a room, y'all go ahead and pack your little overnight bag, and we'll just go somewhere until this passes. Because we figured it was just gonna be a high wind, and never anticipated the fire coming this far.
Because it hadn't gone this far.
So he's in the shower, and a tree blows over and falls on his house. And and I'm running back and forth from my house to her house, keeping an eye on her and things, and the wind is so strong, I'm literally having to walk against the side of the house to keep from being blown down. And the stuff was blowing everywhere, and about that time, a tree right about there fell across behind our vehicles.
In front of them,
Yeah, but the back of them, yeah, so we couldn't get out. We were parked right out that way, and so the tree fell across, and it was a big tree, about as big as that one out there. So we knew we couldn't get out, and so that's when Mark called First Baptist.
Yeah.
And said, we're trying to get off, but we've got trees down, we can't get out. And
So after a little while, they call and says, Mark, we can't get up there. The spur is blocked, there's no way we can get up there. Just get off if you can.
And then we called
And then
911
the
2 or 3
campfire, yeah.
times. So they told us the same thing.
So-
All of our personnel are out. We'll get to you when we can. If you can get off, get off. And nobody was able to come up. We
And
weren't able
it's
to get
dark
down.
now, the power's gone off and it's dark.
Yeah.
And Mark came and he says, Mama, we're gonna have to make a decision. So we're gonna have to get off the mountain. So what do you think? And I said, well, I think we should make every effort to get off if we can. So they're out looking, and that's when they realize how desperate our situation is. We're the only house up here at that time that somebody's in it.
The
Except the
rentals were-
ones that,
the rentals were empty. We assumed our neighbor was not there.
And after finding out there's no way up, we're just wondering, I think in our hearts we're all getting ready to die. But there's such a peace.
Let me clarify just a little bit. Again, Mama was in a lot of pain that day. And you'd probably taken that 4 Tylenol and thing. And we were trying to keep her calm. So she was back there, which is now her bedroom, was the den. And she was sitting back there. And then when the power went off, and we were lighting candles and stuff, and Mark was back there talking to you about what do we need to do. And I came and sat down, and you said, I remember you said, God's brought us through so many storms up here in the past. We've gone without power for days, we've gone through blizzards, and He's taken care of us, and we're thinking she's getting ready to tell us we're just going to stay and trust the Lord. And then she says, but everything in me says God's telling us we need to leave. And so Mark said, okay, so he's on the phone. I called 911 again, They still don't have anybody. And I come in and I go into the sunroom there, and I'm looking out the windows, trees and stuff are blowing everywhere, and all of a sudden sparks come blowing up over that bank. Red embers blowing up, and they go and they land on the roof, and they land on my roof and in the big tree by my house.
So we're in the middle of a wooded area.
Yeah, so all these trees, and so I came back here and I did this to Mark, and he came in and I said, look, and he could see those sparks blowing up, and he looked up in that tree, and one of the embers was beginning to get about this big. It had started burning, and he said, pray like you have never prayed before.
I was
And he
on a
went-
walker.
Yeah, but you were still back here, we hadn't called for you yet. And he went out, and his intention was he was gonna hook the hose and try to water the roof. Well, we weren't thinking we didn't have power, so the pump wouldn't have worked anyhow. But that was what he was gonna do. So he's out there trying to hook the hose in 90-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm in here praying like never before. And I said, all my Pentecostal came out, because I was praying, Lord, and I said, Lord, we're ready. We've already in our hearts decided we're ready. We're at peace if you're gonna call us home tonight. But if you're not, you need to send someone to get us. And I'm looking as I'm praying, and I see headlights out of the corner of my eye, or lights come through the smoke. And I turn and I look right down there to that cabin, and there's a car, the headlights have come on. And so I ran out and told Mark.
You passed those three
Yeah,
cabins.
there's two cabins, and it was the second one, and I ran out and I hollered at Mark, there are lights down at the second cabin. He said, there can't be, there's no power. I said, they're car lights, somebody's leaving. So he dropped the hose and he went running down and stopped. It was a little family, man and wife and a little 3-month-old baby. And they had loaded up their truck and they were getting ready to leave. And Mark told him our situation. He says, we don't have any time, but make it fast and we'll get you. So he backed up as far as he could in our driveway, which was just about in the hairpin curve. He couldn't get any further because trees were down the driveway. And so Mark's coming in, he said, Mama, get your things, we're leaving. There's somebody here who's gonna get us off. So she's getting up, he's grabbed her bag, and they get in the hallway. That used to be the only bathroom they had, that one right there. And he says, Mama,
Famous last word.
something I need to say to you. We realize we're leaving. He said, something I have to say. If you have to go to the bathroom, do it now. That's not all I said. And she did. And so we're going out, and she's on her walker, and it's pitch black dark. And
You grabbed little kitty and
I grabbed my little kitty and her carrier and my purse, and Mark has Mama's bag and his backpack, and we're going down the driveway. And when you went out of the house, where my room was a walkway with a pond and a breezeway, and it was a sitting area out there. So we're walking by out there, and there's debris everywhere. And so I'm shining this little flashlight that I had in my purse in front of Mama, and I said, Mama, just walk where you see the light. And Mark's in front of that, clearing everything out of the way. So she's walking on her walker, looking at this little beam of light going, and like you said, the peace was there. God just was all over us in the peace. And I said, well, here's something that you can write about. And she said, oh yeah, this will give me plenty to write about. We're just kind of going down, but she's going over stuff and under stuff. She has no idea it's there, and she's just getting down. And when we get to the truck, it's a dually, and they're like about this tall.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get up in it. And this young man and Mark are pushing her and pulling her and doing everything they can to get her, cannot. And she just crumbles. She's like, I just can't, because remember her back is out. And I look at little Kitty, and she had a little plastic carrier about this big. And I thought, that's about a step, get up. So I said, just step on this. And so I'm holding it so it won't pop open and her run out. And I'm praying, Lord, don't let Mama squish little Kitty. And so Mama stepped on it, got up on that final step, and Mark pushed her from behind. And the man pulled you from in and got her in and slid little Kitty under her feet. And I ran around, got on the other side in the back. They had the little back seats. And Mark jumped in the
wife
trunk.
was already in there.
Yeah, the mother and the baby and everything they owned was in the back seat. And Mom in the front with the driver, and Mark was in the back. And we took off, and as we go down
The open back of the truck.
right, Mark's in the back of the
right.
truck with wind and fire blowing everywhere. And
He got some videos.
yeah, and so as we're going down the mountain, as y'all will go down, the driver says, I don't know if you want to turn around and look or not, but the whole top of that mountain is on fire. Well, this was the whole top of this
And it
mountain.
was
Right.
And it was all ablaze, every bit of it.
And what was the song that the Lord gave you?
So as we're driving, and everybody was pretty quiet, weren't they? It wasn't a lot of chitter, everybody was just quiet. And
They had to stop a couple of times and
yeah, move trees out of the way. But in my heart, in my mind, I could hear the singing, peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above, sweep over my spirit, forever I pray, in fathomless billows of love. And I could hear the Spirit singing over me. You know, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then when we got down to the spur, it was just a parking lot there. Just a parking lot. People were just sitting there, and then you move a little bit, and somebody let somebody in. And so we're
And it was on fire on both sides,
on both
too.
sides of the spurs on fire. They had one lane of traffic going.
Brooks
out of
might
the-
have been in that traffic with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mark's girlfriend
Lives over on the other side of Gatlinburg.
and she has made it. He said, go to the campground.
He pastors at Mill Creek Campground in Pigeon Forge.
He said, go to campground and we'll meet you there. So, in the meantime, they had to get out of campground because the
And
fire
they're
was
back
coming
in
there.
it was already in Pigeon Forge. But when we got to the end of the spur, into Pigeon Forge, we went to Food City, and they pulled in there, and Dolly was waiting for us there. But Mark said, Clark, I've been on the phone with Clark, one of the pastors at the church. He said, they've already got us a room in Pigeon Forge. Already had us a room. Wow. And,
Talk about miracles.
yeah,
Yes.
you know.
And by the way, many, many years ago, my sister named this place Miracle Mountain
Yeah.
because so many things, we've seen people get saved, we've seen lives turned around, we've seen just one miracle after another taking place here. And sometimes the Lord will wait till this close, you know, and that way you know it's Him.
That's right.
When He
There's
makes
no
you
other
wait,
way.
so He gets
Yeah.
the glory.
That's right.
But we just,
So that night in the hotel, everybody was just totally exhausted. I remember we were getting on the elevator, and Mama was in such pain because getting in the truck really, and we were afraid we might have fractured something. She was in so much pain, and you had some pain medicine, didn't you? And we popped her a couple of those and just let her kind of sleep. And we were getting on the elevator, or Mark was, and he came in the room and he said, I was on the elevator with a man who said, I just stood and watched my house burn down. And we were, you know, our hearts were breaking by all these people whose houses had burned down, and we still didn't really think that ours was, did we? I guess in the back of our mind, we just never thought of it.
Right.
And so the next morning, Mark's phone rang, and it was our neighbor, lives down here, and he called and he says, Mark, this is Preston, and I've been up on the mountain. He said, it's gone. All of it's gone. And so Mark said a few other words, and Mama and Dolly was talking, and he came over and he knelt down in front of Mama. And she was just talking away. You and Dolly were talking, and what did he say?
He said, Mama, it's gone. It's all gone. And I don't know what they did, but they told me that I just covered my face.
Yeah, you took a deep breath. It wasn't like, oh no, it was like, okay. And she said, okay.
So I said, well, I guess Mark said, I guess we're homeless. And I
First
said,
he said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And we all said, blessed be the name of the Lord.
but through all of this is that confidence, that trust that God's in control here. And the fear, of course, there was fear. I mean, but it was not panic. If we had not made it off, it would have still been the same. Mm-hmm. But the things that have happened through that, and then Mark did come up later, and he said there's nothing left to the houses or to the ground.
Tell about what Joshua found when he hiked
And
up.
you were up here, weren't you?
Well, no, she came up about a week later.
It was about a week
No,
after the
sir,
fires.
No, they had, she didn't come right up. But Joshua and Rebecca, my daughter, they came up. Now Preston, the one that called us, he said when he came up, he said it was like the ground was
He said it was
moving.
holy ground.
He said it was holy ground. He said there was fluttering. He said I looked down and I realized it was pages from Bibles. And he said there were some pages from your book, and there were some music pages, partially burned, but they were laying on the ground just kind of fluttering. And he said, I felt like I was on holy ground. And that higher ground building was full of Bibles and commentaries and, so all those Bibles and pages. And